Someone tell me when they see the live
We are
button.
live.
We are
Now.
live.
Now,
Renetta, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 1 Million Cups. If you have not had an opportunity yet, please check in on our app, 1 Million Cups. We have our step-by-step on the screen. And we'd also like everyone to join our YouTube group as well. 1 Million Cups is a mastermind and entrepreneurship community for education for our presenters, and everyone is welcome to join. Next slide. Our mission is to lower the barrier of access to education resources and connect all types of new and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. Presentations are not pitches, they're authentic connections, and it's not networking. We run our community for and by our community. Our culture here is a safe and supportive environment, and we are co-owned by all who show up and support radical and intentionally inclusivity. 1 Million Cups is also volunteer-led and rotate new organizers often, and fill your presenter pipeline together as a community. We like to welcome everyone to attend each week, provide feedback, engage online, and get our news is through Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Our organizers are Donnell Johns, Jen Dalton, Tony Barnett, Mayosha Mendes, John Yu, Melinda Segal, John Rutenberg, myself, Justin Wilson, and Russ McIntosh. Today we're being sponsored by Office Evolution. Sylvia, are you available?
Looks like she stepped away, so I'll go ahead and jump in. Office Evolution is located in Tysons. They are a fantastic collaborative workspace. You can be a virtual member. They have lots of events and lots of business owners and entrepreneurs who are in the startup and growth space. You also can have your own private office or a place to drop in when you need it. So highly recommend. Reach out to Sylvia or visit their website. Again, it's Office Evolution in Tysons. Brought to you by Jen Dalton.
Thank you, Jen. And Dr. Deb, are you on?
I am. Good morning, 1 Million Cups. I really appreciate the opportunity to be the October coffee sponsor, or one of the sponsors. I am Dr. Deb Cohen, and I am an author, a trainer, management consultant, and I also do expert witness work in the HR space. I historically have done a lot of training, either in person or when it's safe, in person or online, but during these sort of conditions. So I've got a whole new line of training that is online. My passion, though, is really in helping organizations and people to be better managers and to develop their skills and capabilities, whether this is as an individual or an organization. So one of my passions is to help organizations facilitate strategic conversations. And since we can't be online and I can't necessarily, since we can't be in person and I can't actually provide you with the coffee, what I've done is pull together some resources, which I will pop into the chat box. So please check that out. There are some links in there. You might find them helpful, interesting, maybe even funny. So what I do is work with organizations to find out what they need and then provide customized solutions. So hopefully you'll see that today. Have a great session this morning, and in these difficult times, may your coffee kick in before reality does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deb.
Hi. Hi, my name is Sylvia Ferguson, and I'm with Office Evolution Tysons Corner. Here at Office Evolution, we support small businesses and entrepreneurs. We provide office space, conference rooms, virtual services such as phone service, professional business address, and much more. So if you're in need of any of these, please feel free to reach out to me. I put my information in the chat. And yeah, I would love to give you a tour or give you more information. Enjoy the presentation, and my name is Sylvia. Thank you.
All right. We ask everyone to please mute their microphones in order to ask questions.
Your microphone went mute, Renetta.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Hey, please keep your microphones on mute during the presentation. To ask questions and participate in the discussion, please use the hand wave icon in the chat section, and the moderator will acknowledge you to speak. If the moderator says your name, please unmute your microphone, say your name and who you are with, and then ask your question or give your comment. Please then put your microphone back on mute. Today we will have Annette from a wild ride called Life presenting. Sorry about that, Annette.
It's okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Annette Whittenberger. I am the founder of A Wild Ride Called Life. A little bit about me. I am a retired. Oh, sorry. Next slide. A little bit about me is I am a retired Army combat vet. I am also a military spouse of over 22 years, and I do have 2 children, one in college and one a senior in high school. I founded this as a blog in the beginning for a platform to share my own personal struggles because I do live with PTSD, depression, and anxiety. And in order to start my own self-healing journey, I decided why not just share it with the world. And so I decided to create a website and start branching out and showing people that you aren't alone and that I wasn't alone. And so that's how this all started. So next slide. So my challenge question is, how can I seek sponsors and organizations to collaborate with? And what is the best platform to spur those types of conversations about mental health and suicide prevention? I want to do more than just share it on social media. And I know that during this time is a little bit difficult, but there are, and I know there's virtual summits and things like that, but once this all ends and it's safer to go out, I want to be able to do more and help more people because I feel that having a conversation with somebody who really understands and gets it makes it makes a huge difference rather than sometimes if people aren't comfortable speaking to a therapist, they might want to talk to somebody who actually has been through what they've been through. Next slide. And so this is how I started. It started in 2016. So between then, I started the website, the blog, and the LLC. Into 2019, I did start a podcast called The True Sweet High to give another type of platform to share stories from not just military affiliated families, but to any person off the street because everybody's struggling, not just military and veterans. And that's when I started becoming more vocal and I started actually doing speaking events in person. And then I decided to go all in and trademark register my brand. Into 2020, that's when I really became a big mental health speaker, advocate, and started to work with as many nonprofits as I could to help each other spread the message and the stigma on mental health and stop suicide. My goal for 2021 is my book will be published. I want to do the book tours. I want to keep spreading the message, and I want to actually create online courses, build larger platforms to share our stories. Next slide. So right now our customers the target market has been veterans, first responders, law enforcement, and then moving into soldiers, both, active duty, reserve, National Guard. but I've also brought in military spouses who have their own story to tell. So really, this is everybody. Everybody here has been someone that I have spoken to give their a platform for them to share their stories and to just help each other out. So we do have a large community of all types of backgrounds, all types of people who are suffering. Next slide. So there's always going to be a competition, but I feel that it's not, I don't want it to be a competition. I want us to work together. So that's been my biggest thing, is how can we collaborate? But these are just the top 3 that, I did research on and that I know about, that are also focusing on the mental health space. And so we do focus on the invisible wounds, not just related to combat, to war. We do want to help military families, law enforcement, first responders. We do want to provide mental health recovery that has been sustained from anything from trauma, from physical injuries, mental, internal. And by, I do a lot of volunteer work with places like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Tragedy Assistance Program, now the Warrior Training Academy, Women Veteran Network. I mean, there's so much that I love to give back, to be able to help in any way we can. But these are just, there's some of the competitors out there. So next slide. So what makes me different? We are, I'm a female vet. So, I'm female veteran owned, and, just coming from my own struggles, it was a huge step for me to come out and actually admit to my struggles. And so I think that was a huge step that helps out with that. Oh goodness, I couldn't read that. 1 second, please. I need to actually enlarge it on my screen. Old eyes. I created a few safe spaces, such as the website. You can actually now submit your own story, be a guest blogger to get your voice heard, as well as with the podcast. I do volunteer with a lot of nonprofits to expand our reach. I do have an international audience. Actually, we are global. I have people from Amsterdam, Spain, all over that are part of our community. I can relate to, on a deep and personal level with shared experiences, and we are featured on over 12 social media platforms, to include a television network that I was interviewed with a few weeks ago. But I just, we are trying to grow. I want to keep growing. Next slide. Again, this was what makes us different. The things that we provide here on the left, and then what I feel some of the market is missing is authenticity. I have seen some programs out there that keep pushing for sales, and that's not what we're about. We actually want to provide resources. I actually want to provide resources at military installations, because I went through my military career with some trauma. There wasn't a lot out there that made us comfortable enough to go seek that help. So I feel that going out and actually speaking from a veteran's perspective, even a military spouse, starting from the top like that and going to get our voices heard might impact in a more positive light to other people, so that they can actually see, that we're real. This really happens. And again, using the voice starting at the leadership level, and whether you're in the military or the corporate world, because even in the corporate world, I've spoken to some people, some of our community, that it's stress. It's a big stressor trying to be at the top all the time, and no one wants to say anything because you don't want to be seen as weak. So I feel that that's needed more. So, why us? Oh, go ahead. Next slide. We understand the challenges of mental health and suicide prevention, and we want to help communities all over the world. And so this has really been my passion in the past 4 years to help reach a larger community because we really need to do more for mental health. Thank you. My name is Annette, and I own a wild ride called Life.
Thank you so much, Annette. That was an awesome job presenting. Thank you for your service, and thank you for what you are doing. It's extremely valuable and needed. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
As we move into Q&A, what I just want to remind people, please click on participants and the blue hand icon to raise your hand. I do have everybody in gallery mode, so if you wave frantically and you physically wave your hand, I'll see you also, or you can drop a message in chat. So Jeff Englander, if you could kick us off with your question, please.
Awesome. Annette, I can't thank you enough for your service to our country. So you paid a dear price, and I want to thank you so much. As we go into election season here, so you helped us protect our country. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you.
Also, too, is that have you talked? You talked about the blog, but what I was also trying to wonder is whether or not you'd be willing to reach out to this group called the Washington Speakers Bureau. They have local people who sign up to speak at events. And now, obviously, all the events are virtual, but my recommendation is to talk to those folks. And those folks are generally well connected. And that's the first thing I do. The second thing I would do is I would reach out to several folks who are in the investment community. And one of the key cogs in the wheel is a gentleman by the name of Tian Wong, Tienwong, I believe, or Tein. It's one of the two. He is a connector in the investment world here in DC, and actually now around the world. And then I will also reach out to you with some other personal contacts.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Annette, have you talked with NAMI or with the International Association for Yoga Therapists? Just groups that maybe could be a good fit for the audience of listeners?
I have not personally reached out to them, no, but I will definitely write that down.
They might be a good place to start. And Eddie, if you could go next, that'd be great.
Sure. My name's Eddie Gleason. I'm with Patrick Gleason Consulting, and Melinda Siegel invited me today, so I'm really happy to be here. And Annette, that was an extremely powerful presentation, and I thank you very much for your service and your continued service to help as many people as you can in the mental health realm. I too am in behavioral health, and this speaks my language, and I have some pretty good ideas for you. I have a friend who is a retired medic, Army Special Forces, and one of his former coworkers now has a treatment center in Texas, and it is for substance use and mental health, and it's for veterans and first responders. And his entire design was to bring those people together and provide them a place that they could go, because the DoD, as I'm told, doesn't really have that many resources for substance use and mental health. And the success rate has been extremely well, because not only can these people relate to each other while they are in treatment, but they can form some bonds to leave afterwards, because I believe that's the most important part, is when you do get out of treatment, is the plan that you have going forward. Anybody can go to treatment and spend 30 days, but it's really about once you hit the real world again, what happens. And whether it's substance use and they start going to AA meetings, or they work with group therapy, things like that, they already have those connections made before they leave. And it's a group of people that really do want to get the help, and it makes all the difference when you do have those connections and can go on the next step and have a group that you can hold each other accountable with. So I'd love to speak with you in more detail about this, and hopefully connect you with some good people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that. Let's make sure we keep our questions and answers short just so we can get through as many as possible. But these are great suggestions. John Gaffigan, if you could unmute and go next, and then Deb.
Hey, Jen, and I've been through that goat rope of being a brief, so I'll just say in that I had put up a bunch of names to you there. Note to self, don't hit the enter shift because it'll distort your comments. But when you capture all those things, circle back to me. I have a lot of touch points and people with disabilities, largely the autism space, but suicide prevention is a first cousin to that. So I think I might be of value for you with several folks you can talk with, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you. And Deb Cohen and then Melinda.
Good morning. Thanks, Annette. Really important issue, and appreciate you, your presentation and you taking up the issue. Have you heard of an organization called ACP, American Corporate Partners? I believe they're out of New York. And the premise of the organization is to help veterans or to help military folks who are transitioning from the military to the private sector. And I'm a mentor in that program. And over the last couple years, I've had, enlisted folks, captains, brigadier generals, everything, of people who maybe have been very focused on the military and who are now trying to transition and figure out, so what skills do I have that will be able to fit in the private sector versus what I've been doing in the military. And, it seems to me that I'm sure they have lots of other resources, and they may be somebody that you can take a look at and partner with.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So Annette, before we get to Melinda, just a clarifying question. Can you give the group a sense of just the framework of your podcast, how long it is, if you've had sponsors in the past, and sort of if you interview people or just what that looks like? That'd be helpful.
Yes, ma'am. So actually today, it's been a year since I've had the podcast. I do have people, I do interview people, all kinds, like it wasn't just veterans anymore. It was to anybody off the street that are suffering, both male and female. And it's published twice a week, and it goes up to about an hour long.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Melinda, go ahead.
Two big ideas. I don't know if you've heard of SHRM, SHRM. They're the Association for HR People. They're headquartered here in Alexandria. They've got national members all over, and there are a lot of local chapters. And it might be a good opportunity for you to get in front of them and be a speaker, number one. And my other thought was, if you could come up with some kind of certification program for HR people, once they get educated on the things they need to do if they've got an employee that is challenged, that could be really big, launching a national certification program.
Thank you so much.
And Mayusha, I saw you had a comment. If you want to talk to that and explain a little bit more, that would be great.
Yeah. So I know that the school system, especially high schools, this would really benefit the high school system, especially with the drug use and help. So I don't know if you have partnered with some of the counselors in the school system or CPS system. I don't know what the protocol is to get into that, but I'm sure they are very open and will be really happy to work with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Annette, are you looking for investors or anything like that, just out of curiosity?
I am looking for sponsorships, investors.
So one organization I would look at would be Street Shares.
Oh.
They are specifically lending and investment in veteran-owned businesses. So we can follow up and I can help do an introduction there, but they have a lot of great content material. They also could help get the word out as well.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Other questions or comments from folks, please, again, Rosemary, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Annette. Thanks for sharing your story. Thank you again for your service to our country, both during your active service and now having the courage to come forward and helping other people to heal. So thank you for that. I know that you said your focus is not on just women and just women vets, but there is a source of non-dilutive capital that's available in every community in the United States. Most cities have some group that's focused on helping women and girls in their community. In Washington, it's called the Women's Fund of Greater Washington Area. In New York, it's the Women's Fund of New York. Often they have grant programs that, again, this is non-dilutive capital. It's money that you apply for and they help you to get. Their sole purpose is to help women uplift their communities. I don't know in the age of COVID whether or not some of them are changing their focus and saying it's not as much about the local community. But if you are thinking of a part of your program that's focused on just women vets or just women in the DMV, that would be a great way to get in some funding to support that. And then you can find different support for the other parts of what you're trying to do. And they can also connect you to groups that are not specifically about supporting women and girls in the local environment. And if you go to the National Women's Funding Network, you could just Google that. They list all of the local women's funding organizations. And Jen, if I can get Annette's email, what I can do is offline send you some of those links. I used to be very active in 2 or 3 of them, so I can give you a little more feedback if you want to have a one-on-one conversation.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Annette, first of all, thank you for sharing your story with 1 Million Cups. I think what you do is absolutely amazing. And I'm proud to say that, you know, you helped me share my story on your podcast. So thank you for that opportunity. Couple recommendations for you. I recommend on your website, you make it easy for people to support you with buttons somewhere saying if you want them to sponsor or how they can help. If they want to sponsor a podcast or an episode or an entire series or what have you, just make it easy for them to be able to do that. We're in a world today that everything is instant. And so if I wanted to help you out right now, I should be able to go to your website and be able to click a button and give you money or figure out how I could support you. So number one, I ask that you make it easier for them on your website and then also Facebook page.
Thank you.
Other than that, continue to do what you do. I know your heart is in this 1000%. And, you know, I watch you every day post something or share your story or share someone else's story. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Donnell.
Renetta, go ahead. Just make sure you're unmuted. There we go.
Hi, Annette. A great presentation. I'm so glad that you spoke this morning. I recently joined Alpha Gamma Xi. It's a military sorority. And there's also Kappa Epsilon and sorority as well. And both have programs for nurturing women and survivors. And each of them and both have a program that's devoted to helping women that have suffered through some sort of trauma. And that would be a good idea for not only sponsorship, but also for a speaker platform to collaborate with them as well. And I can provide you with the contact person for each of them.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Renetta.
Annette, thought too, as a follow-on to Donnell's point. Have you created sponsorship levels yet for corporate sponsor or individual listener sponsor or podcast level sponsorship? Because I think that would help. I know right now you're connected to Pradon. I think I said that right. I might not have, but
Patreon.
yeah, that one. Thank you. Is there a way just to have your own sponsorship levels on your website that people can fund through that? Or do you want them to go to the other site?
Yes, ma'am. I do have a sponsorship package on the website.
Okay. I
With-
couldn't find it, so I would love to make it more visible.
Okay.
My only other thought would be for the podcast to make it easy to find by topic, and maybe consider doing the transcription of the podcast, because that will help with your SEO and make your podcast more like a blog post where you've got the podcast and then the transcription. So just a thought.
Okay.
Deb, you're up. Go for it.
So just a follow-up point on what Jen was just talking about. I was looking at your website and you've got an awful lot of stuff under that More tab. And so you might want to think about breaking some of that out. But what I was looking for in particular was resources. And when I go to the resource section, you've got 4 different links there to different organizations. You might want to think about, and podcasts are great, but people learn differently and people want different pieces of information. So you might want to think about finding, and I suspect it's out there, content that is free and available, that is written content, a guide or an article or something like that, and put some of those up there, some of the sort of favored resources, because again, people learn differently. And you might even think about creating some collateral content of your own beyond the podcast. Maybe it's a summary of what you've learned from some of the podcasts, or the podcast content, as Jen mentioned. Because that might help in terms of driving traffic and people saying, oh, this is a great resource. Let me, send it on to somebody else.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Other questions from folks on the call? Y'all are keeping me on my toes, raising your hand, making me look around all the video screens. Annette, is there a way for people to recommend or nominate someone to be a speaker for the podcast?
There is on the website, there is under the podcast tab, I'll make it easier, but there's a form to submit. You can fill it out, it'll go to me, and then you'll get a follow-up email to schedule a recording.
And as you think about speaking in 2021, where have you spoken this year? What conferences or events were good fits or were helpful and successful?
I've done a lot of virtual summits. I can't think of all the names right now, the top of my head, but there have been some keynote speaking events. I did do a TEDx talk virtually. So things like that. It was all virtual summits.
And as you think about 2021, where would you like to speak?
Oh, I want to get my book at AFI, so on military installations. So I want to go out to the community and actually do speaking events anywhere that's possible, actually.
When are you publishing your book?
Spring 2021.
And do you have a date, or is that just the timeline?
It's a timeline right now, not exact date yet.
No worries. I totally understand and empathize. Other questions from folks on the call? Melinda, go ahead, please.
I loved Renetta's idea of sororities and fraternities and organizations like that. And there is you probably know, there's Panhellenic with a capital H in the middle, and then there's Panhellenic without the H, which is all women's sororities around the country, as well as there's a fraternity organization. And maybe one of the things you can do is do something with your book and do a book tour or something for them, or maybe they could even put together a big awareness drive and event, all Greeks, combining both sides of the Greek system, and that's probably the best way for me to say it. There's a very, very strong Panhellenic both in Northern Virginia and then actually in Washington, D.C., the other group, which is the Black Panhellenic. And I used to do events at Christmas wrapping packages at one of the big shopping centers in the area. And I think that's a great way to get awareness out.
That sounds great. Thank you for that.
I put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Is your business model for profit? Are you looking, is it nonprofit? Are you looking at supporting nonprofits? Like, tell us a little bit more about what does your business look like 2 or 3 years from now? What would get you excited? What are you hoping long term?
A nonprofit would be something that I would really love to do. That's my dream in the next 5 years.
And how many listeners do you have?
Oh gosh, just on Anchor alone, it's over 3,000. But I'm on other platforms, so I can't give you a total number yet. That's just for Anchor. But I'm also on Amazon now and Apple.
And what marketing do you do right now of a podcast?
I use all the social media to include Pinterest. That's my largest following of over 180,000 a month, and Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then Facebook.
That's a lot of followers. How many followers do you have on the different platforms?
A total of 5,000 over all the platforms.
Okay. And have you done marketing on, like, what kind of marketing campaigns do you do? Do you do, for example, if you had a private podcast show where people had to register to listen, or where you could grow your list, is that something you thought about, or what are some of the creative campaigns you've tried that have worked?
I try to promote. I use Canva and Headliner to do an audiogram to promote my listeners. I also created a podcast guide, so each month, each guest is highlighted in this guide that goes out to everybody, email campaign, and all over my social media, to give listeners more personal views on the guests instead of just a Facebook post. So with the podcast guide, you get all their background story and all their links that are clickable to reach them.
Okay, excellent. Other questions from folks on the call? Mary, go ahead. Just make sure you unmute.
Is the mute. First of all, I loved your presentation. I have had my own trauma. I am not in the military, but and a lot of suicide in my family. And so, I think what you're doing is fantastic. And I love the fact that you have all these followers, and I think you're already doing a great job. I haven't quite figured out my input for you, but I'm bound to have some because I think about this all the time. So my first simple question is, just how to follow up with you after. And can I see the chat? Am I allowed to see, Jen, the whole chat after, or is that just for the speaker?
You should be able to see the chat now. I'll make sure you get a copy.
See it now, but I mean later to go through it, we can see that.
Yeah, everybody on the call, you should be able to click on the 3 dots and save the chat. But if not, let me know and I'll make sure you get a copy.
Perfect. Great. I'll save it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For the podcast, do you have graphics and marketing material that you provide to guest speakers to share on their social media?
Yes, I share it with them once it's created. That way they have access. And the podcast guide is on the website, so they always have access to that on the first of each month. But I do provide them with a little Canva and audiogram for them to use.
And are you also a guest on other people's podcasts?
Yes. It's on my website as well, of all the either media publications or guests on other people's shows. It's on my website as well.
Okay. When you think of good sponsors, are you looking for sponsors for a month per podcast? What would be ideal?
I would love to have one per podcast. That's been my goal when I created my sponsorship package. But I do have one that's a monthly sponsor. But yes, I would love to have one for each podcast. I'd love to highlight somebody on each podcast to represent them and show what they do.
Have you advertised on LinkedIn?
I have. Probably not enough, but I have. I had a few interests, but then, it falls off. So.
Okay. I'd be curious to follow up offline and talk to you about what advertising you're doing there. Questions from folks in the group? Anybody else have questions or thoughts or feedback? Again, just a reminder, how to seek sponsors and organizations to collaborate with. Annette, do you have a marketing package that you send out to companies, or how do you reach out right now to get sponsors?
I do have a speaker sheet and a media kit.
Do you have a sponsor kit? So for example, when someone sponsors, what they get, all of that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. It would be great if there is an easy way. Is that also on the sponsors page on your website?
It is.
Okay. So folks on the call, if you want to download that, you can look at that, check it out, and see how you can help forward that and do an intro as well. Monifa, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello, Annette. I think your presentation is fantastic. I hope everybody will take the time to find out your story and how you came to this, because you definitely have a beautiful story and journey to say why you are here and what you're supposed to be doing now. What I want to know is your speaking engagements. Do you put that out or advertise when you're speaking somewhere? Because I would love to see you speak at certain organizations, and that way that could be shared on Facebook and people will, or LinkedIn or IG, and people are so much more visual, and just listening to a story and what you're doing, that will attract people to say, hey, I want to be involved. Do you do a lot of speaking engagements, or are you looking for that now?
So to answer your first question, yes, ma'am, I do post it. I do post it on all my social media on when my upcoming speaking engagement's going to be, along with the registration link. And I am involved in a lot of speaking. I actually have one coming up on this Saturday. But I do share it.
Well, I apologize if I missed that link, but I definitely will look for it now, because I will share it on my own venues, so people will understand and see what you're doing for people that need mental health and suicide prevention assistance and resources. So I too will share this.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Deb Cohen, go ahead.
Good morning again. So Annette, I'm just curious about one thing. You've been at this for, it sounds like, a little bit over a year. Have you seen a difference in terms of where your interest is coming from before the pandemic versus after the pandemic? And would that provide you some sort of a clue in terms of the direction you might go in going forward? Because obviously things aren't going to really clear up anytime in the near future. And that may be having an effect on your speaking, and it certainly might have an effect on a book tour or promoting the book. So have you thought about that, any of those differences?
I have, and I am trying to navigate through that, like what would be the next step if I cannot actually go in person. So I have been in contact with, just the nonprofits that I work with and just the community that I have, whether my website or on my social media. But, with Pinterest, I have seen a huge growth with that. I think maybe because people are bored and they're scrolling through Pinterest and they find the podcast and they go on there. But I need to do better, but I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen if I can't be in person. So I just need to get with those. I need to just get point of contacts and figure out how to do that.
Do you do a lot of your own speaking events?
I have not. I don't do a lot of my own. I'm always involved with somebody else.
I would recommend, and I think this is a follow on maybe to Melinda or Deb's point earlier. Maybe you do a monthly webinar where you pull in the insights from the most recent podcast. Maybe you do a recap and maybe they are themed. I don't know, but I would think about also doing your own speaking, because then you really can control the message and the narrative. That could be something people sponsor as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Melinda, go ahead.
One more idea that I got from Monifa when she said that, she would put something on her website and spread the word. You should put together an ambassador program of people like Monifa and Danelle and all of us that can help you spread your word, and maybe send them this update that Jen suggested, which is also really, really useful. Maybe even you make this group a special Facebook group that is by your invitation only, so that the group can share other ideas.
I love that. Thank you.
I could see a really cool book launch program, even if it is virtual. You could do, a road trip, right? Your logo works perfectly for that type of a thing where you could move around. Where am I today? Who am I talking with today? And find organizations by region. So that might be something to think about, even if you just did a 12 region tour or 6 region tour, and just start to plan that out for next year. And go ahead and start booking that and thinking about where, or who you could work with on that. Because it's important to plan out those events ahead of time. That could be something you also promote if you have your own speaking schedule where you're setting up a talk. It can tee up that type of event as well. So just something to think about.
So much.
All right. So as we get closer to the wrap up of the meeting, I would also point out you have a lot of stuff that people can buy on your store with your logo. I would love to see t-shirts too with quotes, because you could have a big fan following, groupie club. And I know you've got some inspirational quotes out there. So also something to think about, even just free downloadables that people can download and share on social media with quotes. You see that a lot from podcasters. Even if you look at Brene Brown's website, she has a lot of graphics you can download for free and share that are branded, but that you can share. So, those are things that I think also might increase awareness.
Thank you for that.
All right. Last chance to ask questions. So Annette, what are some of the key ideas or takeaways? I know you've been taking notes and we have lots of stuff in chat. What are a couple of things that have stood out to you the most so far?
The contacts are amazing because of course there's people I don't know that I need to contact. I love the ambassador program. I love the virtual book tour, the quotes. There's so much. There's so many amazing ideas, and of course the updating of my website to make it a little bit simpler for people to navigate through. So I'm always wanting to update it to make it easier for people. But and the transcripts for the podcast. So I appreciate all of this. This is so much, and but really great information. So I really appreciate this opportunity and for all of your feedback and the support. It's so heartwarming for me because, like Monifa said, it's been quite a journey to be where I am today because I didn't think I was going to be here 4 years ago. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I do have another thought, and this is one I usually throw out there, especially for solopreneurs. Do you have an advisory board or a board of directors? I would say advisory board because that's a little bit less intimidating, but a group of people that you meet with on a monthly or quarterly basis who at a minimum are a sounding board.
I don't have an advisory board. I have more of like mentors or coaches, but not a board.
I would see if maybe if you can think about what skills do you need for the next 12 months and who can help give you those insights. It might be some of your mentors and champions, but it might be a totally different group. So you may want to think about even just, there's another term called a flash board. which is like a time-bound advisory board. It's a 6-month flash board, maybe to get you through your book launch and get the tour up and running. So people who volunteer for that, it could be time-bound. You know, they're not signing up for life. They could say, sure, I'll meet once a month between now and March to help you get everything up and running. One other crazy thought, and maybe this is a silly idea. Have you had people sponsor podcasts as gifts to other people? I mean, you just got the holidays coming up, and I'm wondering, like, could people sponsor a cool podcast as a gift? That might be a lame idea, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
No, that's a great idea, actually. It hasn't happened, but I will definitely look into that. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, Donnell, I'm going to tee it over to you to ask a final question before we move forward in today's meeting.
Annette, again, your story is amazing. Thank you for sharing your story and asking 1 Million Cups Fairfax to support you in your success. One of the things that I would offer, you know, like we talked about before, is just taking all the information that you got and helping yourself develop a strategic plan with all of this great information. Because everything that I heard so far can help you move forward into where you want to go next with your organization. But my last and final question to you is, what can our 1 Million Cups community do for you?
Help spread the word. That's what I really want to just continue to grow and help more people by sharing what I do. And so that's what I've been really working hard on, whether it's through the podcast or speaking engagements. I want the community to know that they're not alone and that I'm here. So.
Yes, you are. And this is great stuff. Let's give Annette another round of applause.
Thank you guys so much.
Let's hear clapping. Come on, let's get some clapping.
That's what I'm talking about.
You can always count on John.
I'm passing this over to Renetta.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming out this morning. And entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and we acknowledge that the barriers you might face in starting and growing your business and we're passionate at entrepreneurs who are we're passionate about entrepreneurs, and we're looking to support and learn from more people like you. So on behalf of all of us today, we invite you to join us every Wednesday morning and let us know if you'd like to be involved. Next week, we have Pluribus, who will be presenting, and we are also looking for other presenters. So if you know anyone who's interested or you may be interested, please apply at 1millioncups.com/Fairfax. Do we have any upcoming events?
If you'd like to share an event coming up, just raise your hand or drop it in chat, and you can also speak to it as well. I'll kick us off. I am speaking at Career Confidence on Saturday. That is a free event open to the public. If you go to careerconfidence.org, you can sign up and register for anybody looking to learn about LinkedIn, personal brand, especially in the career space, job transition. The event's from 9 to 12. And again, you can sign up at careerconfidence.org. It's a free event. It's an amazing group. Please learn more about that organization.
And can you put that information in the chat box, please? I might have somebody that would be good for that.
Sure. The pressure of finding that information right now. Yes, absolutely. Anybody else have other events they want to bring up or share? No? Okay, please make sure to share about 1 Million Cups, as Renetta mentioned, 1millioncups.com/Fairfax, and you can apply. It doesn't matter if you are an idea hatching or if your business has been around for 5 years. We would love to hear from you and learn more about how we can help. Renetta, back to you.
All right, thank you, everyone.